So, welcome to the Common Constitutionalist video podcast number 3. I guess it's going okay. I enjoy it, I guess. I was supposed to be doing this outside again, but my son and I went on a very lengthy river traverse today. Took a lot of time, and we didn't get back, and frankly, I'm just beat tired. But we're going to get through this anyway. So today I've got a couple of different topics. Both are regarding government control. What a shocker. The first is a National Review article about the EPA, one of my favorite topics, one of the devil, the EPA. And the second is from, of course, the Daily Mail, because what podcast would be complete without an article from the Daily Mail? So we're going to do one again, and it is about the nanny state, regulations, rules, and the nanny state. So we'll get started today on the Common Constitutionalist.
You are listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black helicopters.
I'm not a big fan of Trump. I'm not a never Trumper, but I'm not a big fan of Trump. I never have been. I was a Cruz guy, but he beat Cruz fair and square. And so when he became president, I said I was going to give the guy a clean slate, and I did. We're going to start over again. You got a clean slate president. Not that he gives a rat's what I think, but that I would judge him on the time he was inaugurated forward and nothing in his past. And I think that that's fair. So if you watch or listen to the news, it seems like nothing in Washington is getting done. There's Russia, there's healthcare, there's just nothing other than those two things really that's happening, collusion and all this other nonsense, and nothing seems to be getting done. Well, that's not the case. It kind of is the case when you're talking about Trump having to deal with McConnell and Ryan and the schmoes in the legislature, all but just a few senators and congressmen who are conservative caucus members, if you want to call them that, or something like that. But kind of under all the noise and whatnot, Trump is getting some stuff done. And there's nobody really talking about it because it doesn't make news. So one of my major issues, I guess, is the environment, or actually, and not just the environment, but environmentalist wackos that are dressed up as government officials and people who actually give a rat's about the environment. They don't really care about the environment. It's all about controlling other people and doing, soaking people for the money that they need to advance their agenda. And a lot of that goes back to the EPA. And I apologize, but when I was doing my river traverse, I must have gotten something in my eye. So if I blink excessively, it's not because I'm a lunatic or anything. It's just I had something in my eye, and it's just irritating me. So, oh well. So anyway, the radicals of the EPA. Through various regulations, the reason why they're so dangerous, they're probably more dangerous than any other government entity or any entity in the United States. They're worse than the IRS and whatever. The reason is because they are trying to attempt to control everything: our land, our air, and our water. And there's nothing really beyond that. Other than land. When you control the land, you control what people can do on the land, what people can do on the water, how they can treat their own homes, their own mud puddles and whatnot, and the air that they breathe. You've pretty much got control of everything, and that's the whole point about the EPA. And that's the point about during the Obama administration, the EPA head, Gina McCarthy. She is a radical leftist. I mean, she's just dyed-in-the-wool leftist. And in her reign during the Obama administration, they came up with a bunch of stuff, the Clean Power Act and the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act and the Clean and this and that and the Clean Power Plan and whatever. The most damaging is the Clean Water Act because I guess it encompasses everything, basically. And it's the penultimate power grab, if you were. Now, but Trump's EPA and Scott Pruitt, the EPA director, they're trying to roll back these things, and you're not really hearing about a lot of this stuff. So I want to bring something up that was written up in the National Review about just what's going on with the EPA, what they were trying to do, and what Scott Pruitt and Trump are trying to roll back. And so far have been pretty successful. And this is, again, because they don't have to work with Congress and the Senate, because those dimwits can't get anything done. Or they choose not to get anything done, other than rid us of President Trump. That's their whole goal in life, it seems like. So the National Review writes, at the end of 2010, EPA produced a blueprint for regulating the Chesapeake Bay watershed. The document asserts federal authority not just over the bay, but over also over all tributaries upstream and all drainage ditches. And dig this, all land which rainfall runoff might find its way downstream. So, translation, virtually every mud puddle, every speck of land that even gets any rain that might find its way into the Chesapeake, because of this blueprint, they could regulate. So if it rains on your property and they say it might go into the Chesapeake eventually, it might find its way, they can regulate your land. Isn't that wonderful? The blueprint encompasses 6 states and Washington, D.C., and would cost up to, and now this is in 2010, and would cost up to $80 billion to implement. Probably a lot more than that, but that's the high estimate at any rate. So regardless of this cost, imagine the damage to states, homeowners, all land, with the feds being able to control all water sources in 6 states and Washington, D.C. And it's not as if I have anything against the Chesapeake Bay. I love the Chesapeake Bay. Oh, the Chesapeake Bay. If you've not driven the Chesapeake Bay, the bridge tunnel, where you go over and under the Chesapeake Bay, it needs to be, if you have a bucket list, it needs to be on your bucket list. That's how cool it is. And when I was in the Navy at Norfolk, I had a buddy of mine who knew a friend who knew a friend who knew a friend's cousin, that type of thing. Me and a bunch of buddies would borrow this guy's 32-foot sloop, take it out on the Chesapeake Bay, and we'd spend all day out there. It was wonderful. We used to hook up the bosun's seat, and if you don't know what a bosun's chair is, it's basically a rope that's tied to the mast, and you've got this it's like a little swing set type of swing. It's just a flat wooden seat with a bunch of ropes on it that hold you in, and you swing out. And we used to have these big air contests and submergence contests. And what you would do is you could actually swing around the entire mast, obviously without the sail. But at any rate, so you get up ahead of steam. You get a guy in the bosun's seat or in the bosun's chair, and he would he'd swing around the mast. And when he got enough big air, so to speak, the helmsman would make a hard turn quarter starboard, and the mast would swing over, and you'd go flying into the bay head first, and you'd submerge. And we had a line tied to the rope, the bosun seat rope, with a prusik knot, so you could actually pull yourself up, so you wouldn't drown. Nobody drowned, but if I recall correctly, I think alcohol might have been involved. At any rate, that aside, back to the national. I'm sorry, as soon as I started reading about this, it's the first thing that came to mind was the Bay Bridge. Having lunch out there on the bridge, and then sailing on the Chesapeake. Whatever. Okay, so anyway, The Bay blueprint was not just it wasn't just a blueprint. A design for every other body of water in the it was for a design for every other body of water. That's what the blueprint was for. So imagine taking that blueprint and you control 6 states in Washington, D.C., basically every drop of water that comes into contact with the Chesapeake Bay. If the government officials say it does, then of course it does, right? Now apply that blueprint to the mighty Mississippi, which encompasses a crapload more states, or the Missouri, or the Colorado. The EPA would control virtually every bit of land and water in the United States because of the Clean Water Act. That's how damaging this thing is. That's what an absurdity this is. But of course the left would say, no, it's not a power grab. It's for clean water, and who couldn't be for clean water? Well, that's why they call it these things. That's why they call it the Clean Power Act. Who wouldn't be against clean power? Who could possibly be against clean power? Who could possibly be for dirty air or dirty water? That's why they name these things the way they do. So, less than 4 months after taking office, President Obama issued an order instructing the EPA to make full use of its power to regulate the Chesapeake Bay watershed in a manner that can be replicated throughout the nation. So this was the plan. This was the master plan all along. It wasn't the Clean Water Act wasn't just for the Chesapeake Bay. That was just a blueprint to implement it for every other land mass and rainfall, drainage ditch, or mud puddle in the nation. That was the power grab. So you don't ever believe the left when they say, well, we're just for clean water. That's a load of crap. So you might ask then, what's Trump doing about it? I mean, this sounds really, really bad. And you're right, it is really, really bad. So what's Trump doing about it? Well, the unified agenda highlight efforts that the Trump administration has taken to reduce unnecessary regulation, which in my opinion is basically almost all of them. Agencies that the Obama administration controlled, now that they're in Pruitt's hands, basically, they have withdrawn 469 actions that were proposed by the late in the Obama administration's reign of terror last fall, and have reconsidered 391 active actions by reclassifying them as long-term or inactive according to the agenda. So basically that's 860 actions actually within the space of just a few months at the end of the Obama administration. They thought they'd just slide them bad boys in and nobody'd notice while they were taking over the entirety of the United States through the Clean Water Act. What a crock. So places like Think Progress and the Sierra Club and everything, obviously they had to pipe up because they are absolute whack jobs, environmentalist whack jobs, or just plain old whack jobs. And they say that Trump, by doing this, by denying all these actions, he's just denying science and taking a wrecking ball to important environmental protections, of course. Anything that you do to curb the left, you're taking a wrecking ball to life as we know it. We can't exist without all these regulations. 860 actions that were going to be taken by the Obama. It's just on top of the thousands that they already had. It's absolutely ridiculous. And happy day for Trump for doing this. So, despite all the scandals and all the nonsense with Russia and healthcare, will it pass, won't it pass, what's it going to look like, we're not going to repeal, we're not going to replace, we're not blah, 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 collusion, Jared Kushner, Donald Trump Jr., Paul Manafort, what's his face, the other dopey looking guy, Bannon, whoever. It seems like nothing's getting done, but in the background, underneath all this noise, the Trump administration is actually getting some stuff done where they can get some stuff done. And it's because they are able to, in this particular case, because they're able to work without Congress. And that's that's what it's all about. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back for more Nanny State fun. You're listening to me, the Common Constitutionalist.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
All right, so welcome back, and for some more Nanny State fun. This is from the Daily Mail, of course, and this is about a little girl's lemonade stand in jolly old England. So this little British girl, she's 5 years old. Her and her dad were in the neighborhood, and they were having a concert nearby, some festival. I can't remember what it's called, nor do I really care to look it up. So just some music festival. And there were going to be thousands of people there, and people were walking by the house all the time. And maybe it was a whole weekend-long festival or something like that. And this little girl saw all these other vendors and said, well, why can't we set up something? So they decided on a lemonade stand. You know, virtually everybody in America growing up had a lemonade stand or something like that, where they sold iced tea or lemonade on the side of the road, you know, right in front of their house or something like that, so their parents could watch them. And it was no big deal, right? Well, they go to the store, they get the ingredients, they mix up the lemonade, they make a stand, they put it out there, and all is going well until the what do they call them? The enforcement officials arrive. All right. So this is from the Daily Mail. All right. So the Daily Mail writes that Overzealous council officials have come under fire after a 5-year-old girl was given a 150-pound fine, which is about $200, for setting up a homemade lemonade stall close to her home. The poor little kid, the young girl, burst into tears and told her father, "I've done a bad thing," after enforcement officers read her, a 5-year-old girl, and these enforcement officers come up in their uniforms and read her a legal letter and issue her, a 5-year-old little kid, a fine. Really? So the Daily Mail continues. The stunned father, Andre Spicer, said his daughter had set up a stall in Mile End, East London, while thousands of music fans were on their way to the Love Box Festival on the weekend. Yeah, what a name. But it was a musical festival. It was not an orgy. Okay, I'm sorry. Whatever. So enforcement officials forced the 5-year-old girl to stop selling. First theft. They forced her to stop selling her lemonade. Then they read the legal letter. Then they issued her a £150 or $200 fine. Now, the Mr. Spicer, who is a professor at City University in London, told the Evening Standard it's not like she was trying to make a massive profit. This is just a 5-year-old kid trying to sell lemonade. Okay, I get it. At least I get it. And after this got some press, the Tower Hamlets Council. I'm not going to go into why I know Tower Hamlets, but at any rate, the Tower Hamlets Council has since promised to cancel the fine issued for trading without a permit, and apologize for the debacle. All right, so you got that. So the Daily Mail said that after she kept repeating that she had done a bad thing and was sobbing the whole way home, and she was really upset because apparently, according to the dad, she was proud of what she had done and really enjoyed the experience. And all this because the kid, the dad and his daughter were selling cups of lemonade for, they say it's for 50p and a pound. So basically, it's like 50 cents in a dollar, all right? He also wrote to the Telegraph, the UK Telegraph, saying that after 5 minutes, the officers' jobs were done and they went on their merry way. We packed up and made the short walk home. My daughter sobbed all the way. When she finally had calmed down, I started to try to make sense of what had just happened. I'm a professor at a business school, so I probably should have known some kind of permit was required. Yeah, you might have known that because it's Nanny State Britain, just like it's Nanny State America and the rest of Nanny State Europe. But why on heaven or earth would a 5-year-old kid running a lemonade stand need a permit? I mean, like he said, it wasn't like she was any public safety hazard or whatever. So a statement from the council said, "We are very sorry that this happened. We respect our enforcement officers." No, excuse me. "We expect our enforcement officers to use common sense." Oh, okay. Ain't it just amazing how uncommon common sense is? Boy, howdy. "And to use their powers sensibly. This clearly did not happen. The fine will be canceled immediately, and will be contacting Professor Spicer and his daughter to apologize." But of course, none of this would have happened. I'm not talking about the enforcement officers and nonsense. The apology wouldn't have made, the fine wouldn't have been rescinded, the permit, the closing down of the lemonade stand, none of that would have been apologized for. The fine wouldn't have been rescinded, nothing, unless this thing wasn't publicly known. If the father had just quietly taken his daughter, his poor little sobbing 5-year-old girl, home, broken down the lemonade stand, was quiet about it, they wouldn't have apologized. They wouldn't have rescinded the fine. They wouldn't have said that their officers should have used common sense. None of this stuff would have happened unless the guy went public, because they don't really give a rat's. All they care about is the control. And you know darn well it's not the money. It's not the 150-pound fine that they're after. It's the control of the people, the Gestapo tactics. So it's just one of those other nonsensical things that it's good for the collective, and the nanny state has to maintain control over its population at whatever cost. It doesn't make any difference. Like, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. That whole nonsense. And you may be thinking, well, so what? It's England. So what? It's happening across the pond. Who cares? Think again. This happens in the United States. It's been happening repeatedly for the past several years in the United States, because the nanny state is the United States, just as the nanny state is in Europe and England. It's the same thing. All these liberals and all these leftists and statists, they're all cut from the same cloth. It doesn't make any difference whether they're European or Asian, Russian or American. It doesn't make any difference. The statists are the statists the world around. So I polled a few examples over the past few years of the nanny state shutting down little kids' lemonade stands and whatnot in the United States. So it does happen in the United States, and it happens quite often, as a matter of fact. Let's see. Local authorities in Coralville, Iowa, have shut down a 4-year-old. Now, this is a few years ago. I think that might have been 2011 or something like that. Local authorities in Coralville, Iowa, shut down a 4-year-old girl's lemonade stand because she does not have the proper operating permit. Police, the cops, showed up and informed her that the permit informed the 4-year-old girl in her front yard running a doggone lemonade stand on her own property that she had to buy a $400 permit. And according to a city ordinance, the 4-year-old girl must apply for the permit and get a health inspection from the city health inspectors. Can you, it's just, and we sit back and we put up with this crap. It's just unbelievable. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Georgia, police shut down a lemonade stand run by 3 girls this time, who were saving money to go to a water park. Police said the girls needed a business license, a peddler's permit, and a food permit to operate the stand, which cost $50 a day or $100 per year each girl. Want another? Okay, how about this? Orange County, California. You would expect this. I would expect this in California, but Georgia, Iowa? Come on, give me a break. So, Orange, how come I can't get that right? Orange County, California. That was hard. Annabelle Lockwood makes the best lemonade around Fountain Valley. Using her grandmother's recipe, a homemade stand built by her father, and a lot of passion, she serves the gourmet refreshments, classic or pink lemonade, and flavors like peach, blueberry, ginger, and watermelon. This is one fancy stand. How come my neighborhood doesn't have one of these beauties? To eager customers and charitable events, but her passion is being tested by the regulatory hand of the state. Orange County authorities shut down. Yeah, they came in and shut down. Probably the SWAT team was called. Annabelle's small business and gave her 30 days to get the proper permit and license. The permit will cost around $200, but that's not all. But wait, there's more. But in order to secure the permit, Annabelle will have to pay a bevy of government requirements costing, are you prepared, $3,500 just to serve fresh squeezed fruit juices to thirsty passers-by. No, it's in California. I'm sorry. I was going to say unbelievable, but it's all too believable. There's another one. Let's see. 2 girls who opened up a lemonade stand to raise money for a Father's Day gift were shut down for police for operating without a permit. We are trying to raise money to take our dad to Splash Kingdom, one 8-year-old girl said. Added her 7-year-old sister Zoe, we had kettle corn and lemonade. Oh no, you served food too? You must get a food permit. The lemonade was for 50 cents and the kettle corn was $1. But if you get both, it was just $1. What a deal, huh? However, local Overton, Texas, this was obviously in Texas. And again, California, you would expect this kind of crap. We're talking Texas, we're talking Georgia, and we're also talking Iowa. And this is just spending, about 2.5 minutes on the interweb looking this crap up. There's probably thousands of them out there. And it's just the most absurd thing I've ever heard. Just incredible. Nanny State on steroids. However, local Overton, Texas authorities had little sympathy for the girls when they stumbled upon their stand. They were probably a stakeout. A code enforcement officer and the chief, the freaking chief, she called me to the side and said we needed a permit. And this is the nanny state gone wild. And we sit back and we allow this kind of crap to happen every day. We don't attend town council meetings. We don't do anything about the city. We don't run for local office. We don't do any of this crap. We just sit back and let these regulators do what they do. And before you know it, your 5-year-old's lemonade stand is being shut down and you owe a $1,000 fine and some stupid ass excuse my language, some stupid blank permit that is just so completely unnecessary. This is Americana we're talking about, and they're trying to wipe it away because, and again, it has nothing at all to do with the money. You could write the cops could go out there and write a couple of tickets and more than make up for little Zoe's lemonade stand or something like this. It's not about the money. It's about the control. It's about these people, these politicians that want to control everything. They think they're smarter than everyone else. They think we're a bunch of nimrods that can't control our own lives. We can't live our own lives and we can't make decisions on our own. And so they have to do it for us. Cradle to grave, that's what they have to do. It's the most absurd thing in the world, shutting down a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old girl's lemonade stand, and the cops show up and shut her down. Give me a break. I mean, come on. So, before I have a coronary or burst in artery, I think I'm going to sign off. This is the Common Constitutionalist with the 3rd Common Constitutionalist video podcast, and we will talk to you next week. Hopefully I'll be able to do a remote location or something. Is that what you call it? Sure. And by the way, I forgot to buy my makeup. So maybe I'll do that next week too. See ya.
thank you for listening to the Common Constitutionalist Weekly Podcast.